It turned out that just a moment ago, after discussing the plan with Yang Xinxin, Zhang Yi returned to his room. The prolonged battles had made him miss his small bed dearly. He even thought that if he couldn't deal with Yuan Konye, he would take the small bed with him before leaving. Then, he found his thoughts amusing, as he was still concerned about a mattress in such a situation. However, those who understand would know that what he truly couldn't bear to part with was the peaceful and comfortable life at the shelter. But now, dangers were lurking everywhere, with words like Shichao, Baishuijiao, Ice Soul Bloodvine, swirling around in Zhang Yi's mind. Because there were still many doubts he couldn't explain, such as why he couldn't find the zombie virus in the samples if the bloodvine could indeed nurture zombies. With all these doubts and worries, Zhang Yi gradually closed his eyes. However, in his dream, his consciousness once again traversed back to that abandoned building. Only this time, the bloodvine before him was much taller than he remembered, with its majestic crown stretching over 10,000 meters. This scene left Zhang Yi puzzled, as he clearly remembered the bloodvine being no taller than a few hundred meters back then. But at that moment, he suddenly witnessed an extremely shocking scene. It turned out that beneath the bloodvine, the roots were growing around countless zombies. They were absorbing the nutrients from the bloodvine to strengthen themselves. It was at this moment that Zhang Yi realized that he had missed this crucial detail all along. At this point, Zhang Yi awoke as if from a dream. In his daze, he saw a figure above him. As his vision gradually cleared, Zhang Yi finally saw the person's face. It was Li Jian, the man with the sacrificial ability. Li Jian was holding a sharp blade as he approached the bloodvine. Then, he lightly cut his own finger, and the next second, Li Jian's blood flowed like a stream onto the bloodvine. The bloodvine, like a greedy beast, continuously absorbed Li Jian's blood. As more and more nutrients were supplied to the zombies underground, their appearance gradually began to plump up. This scene made Zhang Yi finally understand that all along, the bloodvine was the key factor. Without it, the zombies could never have grown so quickly. But at that moment, the tens of thousands of zombies underground suddenly opened their scarlet eyes. Every one of them was staring directly at where Zhang Yi was standing. This sudden change startled Zhang Yi awake. He awoke drenched in sweat, breathing heavily. It was the first time he had been in such a disheveled state. However, for Zhang Yi, this was an extremely intriguing dream because all the complex clues became crystal clear at that moment. Finally, Zhang Yi figured out all the causes and effects of the events. He quickly grabbed a notebook from the bedside to record everything while his mind was still clear. Thus, Zhang Yi began to organize all the events. The outbreak of Shichao happened 31 days ago when the 5 major forces in Tianhai City were simultaneously attacked by zombies. Li Jian was taken to the Baishuijiao just a month ago. This indicates that there were no zombies in Tianhai City before because the bloodvine's production capacity was too weak. Li Jian's arrival directly strengthened the bloodvine's ability, allowing it to rapidly produce a large number of mothers. It seems that this is the origin of the zombie king. And once the zombie king is created, it can inject the virus into suitable corpses, thereby producing a large number of zombies. However, Yuan Konye was attacked by the bronze armor zombie because he couldn't directly command the zombie dogs. He could only control the bloodvine, but the zombie king's intelligence was not high and could only understand some simple commands from the bloodvine. Therefore, the bronze armor zombie attacked Yuan Konye. As for why Zhang Yi and the others didn't obtain any useful information from the bloodvine earlier, it must have been because the Baishuijiao had hidden the crucial evidence beforehand. They might have even deliberately left clues for Zhang Yi and his team to mislead them into investigating the bloodvine, thus dispelling their suspicions. Finally, everything became clear to Zhang Yi. He let out a long breath of relief. Now, it was his turn to act. At this moment, Zhang Yi's smile grew increasingly sinister, and the previous look of worry disappeared entirely. Because as long as Zhang Yi understood the root of everything, he could find a way to counter it. Thus, Zhang Yi was now more certain than ever that Shichao, being a formidable weapon of the Baishuijiao, could not have been so easily wiped out. It must have been hidden by the Baishuijiao somewhere. Moreover, the millions of zombies that the investigation team destroyed earlier were merely a diversion, as the Baishuijiao feared the Zhongnan Dachu and wanted the investigation team to mistakenly believe that the zombie crisis had been resolved. That way, they could leave Tianhai City and return to report. Once Zhang Yi allowed Bian Junwu to leave, Yuan Konye would attack Zhang Yi and his team without any hesitation. But thinking about Bian Junwu's current physical condition, Zhang Yi couldn't help but worry. Would he be willing to exhaust his life force to fight against Yuan Konye? While Zhang Yi was still pondering how to deal with his adversaries, there was a sudden knock on his door. Following that, Yang Xinxin's voice came from outside. "Brother Zhang Yi, can I come in?" Seeing this, Zhang Yi immediately invited him in. He knew Yang Xinxin wouldn't come to chat idly, so he was just in time to hear his insights. As for Yang Xinxin, as soon as he entered the room, he mentioned that he had analyzed some information and wanted to report it to Zhang Yi. However, Zhang Yi raised his hand to stop him and took out his notebook. "Take a look at this first, then we can discuss your thoughts," Zhang Yi said. Yang Xinxin took the notebook with some confusion and asked, "Brother, what is this?" Zhang Yi then briefly explained the origin of the notes. "These are issues I've deduced through my dreams." After reading the notebook, Yang Xinxin solemnly asked, "Brother, do you have a plan?" Zhang Yi responded that he only had some ideas. "Let me tell you about them first. You can point out anything that doesn't work and add your suggestions." Yang Xinxin, looking serious, said, "Don't worry, brother. I also have a plan to deal with them." On the other side, after Zhang Yi's forces had left, the members of Baishuijiao began to rebuild. Although there were very few survivors, no matter how desperate they were, they had to continue living. So, under the command of Zheng Yixian, they began to work together in an orderly manner. A small group was assigned to sort supplies, while another group was tasked with cleaning the battlefield. Their main job was to transport the bodies to the abandoned building. Once everything was arranged, Zheng Yixian headed towards the chapel, as he still needed to discuss the next steps with Yuan Konye. As for Yuan Konye, as usual, he stood silently before the altar, praying as if everything that had happened in the world had nothing to do with him. At this moment, Zheng Yixian quietly approached Yuan Konye from behind. "Our plan this time was very successful. No one will suspect us, and no one in Tianhai City can stop us. As soon as the investigation team leaves, we can start the harvesting plan," Zheng Yixian said. Upon hearing this, Yuan Konye slowly opened his eyes. "For some reason, I have been feeling a sense of unease these past few days, something that has been troubling me. After thinking it over, there's still one thing I'm not entirely confident about," Yuan Konye said. Zheng Yixian looked puzzled and asked, "Our arrangements are perfect. There were no mistakes from start to finish. Even the blood vine was hidden very well. What are you still worried about?" Yuan Konye turned around with a serious expression and said, "Actually, on the night of the Shichao attack, someone saw me using someone else's ability." Upon hearing this, a sharp glint flashed in Zheng Yixian's eyes. "Are you talking about the woman that Zhang Yi brought over?" "Yes, it's her. This has been my concern all along. I wonder if it will become a problem for us," Yuan Konye replied. Zheng Yixian, however, remained calm and reassured him, "Don't worry, nothing will happen. Who says that a person can only have one ability? Besides, in this battle, our Baishuijiao suffered the most casualties. No one will suspect us. Even if they have some suspicions, at most, they'll discover the secret of the Ice Soul. But what can they do? In the face of absolute power, everything else is insignificant. What remains is the law of the jungle, where the strong prey on the weak." Hearing this, Yuan Konye nodded and said, "In that case, as soon as the people from Jiangnan district leave, we'll take action immediately." Then, with a look of anticipation, he added, "Soon, I'll be able to taste the most delicious food in the world. I'm really looking forward to it. Once I gain the abilities of the various leaders, my power will reach unimaginable heights. At that time, I will become the god of the new world, and everyone will bow down at my feet. The rules of the world will be rewritten because of me." It turned out that earlier, Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin had been discussing for a long time. The plan they finally came up with was to first locate the hidden zombies. Both of them firmly believed that as long as they could prove the existence of the zombie horde, Bian Junwu would not be able to return to Blizzard City. However, this plan could not be disclosed to anyone else just yet. Zhang Yi knew that if they revealed the truth now, it might cause unnecessary panic. Yang Xinxin agreed with Zhang Yi's view. After all, it wasn't time for the real battle yet. The fewer people who knew the truth, the better they could control the situation. But at the same time, young Shinshin also thought of a problem. If they didn't inform their shelter companions about this, wouldn't it mean that only Zhang Yi would be investigating Xichao alone? Zhang Yi noticed young Shinshin's concern, so he stood up and solemnly said, "The levels of abilities among the gifted are becoming increasingly clear, with significant differences between them. So, at this point, I'm the only one who can accomplish this task." Hearing this, young Shinshin felt reassured because Zhang Yi was right. If they all acted together, it could lead to exposure. So he didn't argue further and just gave a few reminders before leaving. The next morning, the shelter was still filled with laughter and joy as usual. No one was aware of the impending danger. At this time, Uncle noticed Zhang Yi heading towards the door. Out of curiosity, he asked, "Zhang Yi, are you going out?" Zhang Yi smiled and replied, "Yes, I'm going out for some exercise and to clear out the nearby zombies while practicing the sword techniques Liang Yu taught me." Upon hearing this, Liang Yu immediately stood up and said, "I'll go with you. Dealing with zombies isn't something you should do alone. Plus, I can guide you while I'm there." Seeing this, the others also expressed their desire to join. Zhang Yi never expected to dig a pit for himself like this, so he tried his best to dissuade everyone. But no matter how hard he tried, everyone was determined to contribute to the shelter, leaving Zhang Yi helpless. In the end, he had no choice but to compromise. However, he came up with a solution. Everyone would split up and each person would be responsible for a specific area. The implication was that this way, they could clear the zombies faster. Everyone happily accepted the suggestion, and Zhang Yi finally breathed a sigh of relief. He then told everyone, "Go change your clothes first, I'll go ahead. And remember, everyone, be careful and don't stray too far from the shelter." However, at that moment, Hua suddenly followed him. Seeing this, Zhang Yi didn't say much, thinking that having a bodyguard with him wouldn't be too bad. And so, the man and the cat left the shelter together. Zhang Yi didn't dare to delay and immediately summoned the snowmobile. Without hesitation, Zhang Yi drove towards Tianfeng district, where Bai Shuijiao's headquarters was located. It wasn't long before Zhang Yi arrived at a subway entrance in Tianfeng district, still several kilometers away from Bai Shuijiao's headquarters. Zhang Yi decided to start his investigation from here. After getting out of the vehicle, Zhang Yi immediately put away the snowmobile and took out a tracking device. This device was the result of a collaboration between Yang Shinshin and Lu Karen, displaying the entire Tianhai city's subway network. With this equipment, Zhang Yi could locate himself at any time, and Hua could assist him well, as feline animals have a very keen sense of danger, even perceiving it in advance. With that, Zhang Yi and Hua descended into the subway station. His mission this time was to find Yuan Kongyi's hidden trump card. As long as he found it, Zhang Yi could initiate his second plan. So as soon as he entered, Zhang Yi started testing Hua's reactions, wanting to see how Hua would respond. However, after sniffing around, Hua's expression didn't change. He still seemed relaxed and lazy. This puzzled Zhang Yi because, in his opinion, the most dangerous place should be the safest. He speculated that Bai Shuijiao would most likely hide the zombies here. But the current results were far from what he had expected. Therefore, Zhang Yi continued to search the subway station repeatedly, relying on his tracking device to navigate through the dark underground. Despite how many times he used the double doors, he couldn't find any trace of zombies. At times, he even doubted his hypothesis, but he quickly dismissed that thought, knowing that Yuan Kongye wouldn't abandon such a significant trump card. Just as Zhang Yi was still in doubt, Hua's fur suddenly stood on end. What had it sensed? Zhang Yi had taken out his tracker and was surprised to discover that he had already arrived in Aosheng district. This was the southernmost part of Tianhai city, and if he ventured further, he would be outside the city limits. At this moment, the eerie wind blowing through the tunnel could be sensed even by Zhang Yi, hinting at the vast number of zombies stored inside. But to confirm this, Zhang Yi needed to see it with his own eyes. This posed a challenge because getting too close could easily alert the horde. But Zhang Yi was not someone who would be easily deterred. After thinking for a moment, he came up with a solution. Before setting out, Lu Karen had given him a mechanical rat. This rat had been coated with zombie blood by Zhou Kei'er, allowing it to infiltrate the zombie horde without raising suspicion. Zhang Yi placed the mechanical rat on the ground, knowing that this was his best option. Whether it would succeed or not depended on the skills of Zhou Kare and Lu Karen. With Zhang Yi remotely controlling it, the mechanical rat scurried forward, disappearing into the tunnel. As he watched the rat vanish, Zhang Yi began to plan his next steps. He knew that the Aosheng district subway station was vast, and it might take the mechanical rat some time to locate the exact position. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi remained vigilant, aware that although he had the ability to traverse space, which could ensure that neither he nor Hua Hua would face any mortal danger, this mission was meant to be a secret investigation. He absolutely could not alert the zombie horde, or everything he had done would be in vain. 2.5 hours passed, and Zhang Yi, staring at the controller in his hand, began to fall into deep thought. So far, he hadn't detected a single zombie, which led him to start doubting himself. Had he overthought this? But he quickly dismissed that thought, knowing that ever since the apocalypse began, his ability to sense danger had been exceptional. He was certain that if he kept looking, he would find something. Another 2.5 hours went by, and sure enough, persistence paid off. The mechanical rat discovered the zombie horde in the deepest part of the tunnel. Zhang Yi estimated that the horde numbered over 1 million. As for the exact number, only Yuan Konye would know, as the mechanical rat had no place to go further. At this moment, Zhang Yi was incredibly tense. The thought of Tianhai City, once home to nearly 20 million people, made his heart race. These people were the perfect raw materials for creating zombies. Given enough time, the number of these terrifying creatures could reach an unimaginable scale. Zhang Yi made up his mind. He needed to return immediately and inform Bian Junwu of this discovery. If he waited until they left, even if Zhang Yi could clone himself, he wouldn't be able to handle so many zombies. However, before leaving, Zhang Yi chose not to retrieve the mechanical rat. Instead, he left it hidden near the zombies because it still had more important tasks to accomplish. Zhang Yi then activated his double door ability and returned to the surface. Looking at the vast white snowfield, he felt no joy at all because the real challenge was still ahead. Zhang Yi knew that while the zombie horde might have traces that could be followed, the most dangerous threat was still Yuan Konye, for no one knew just how powerful she had become. It turns out that earlier, the investigation squad had been searching for the past few days but had found no trace of the zombie king. Therefore, they unanimously believed that the zombie crisis had ended and that it was time to disband and return to Blizzard City. As for the remaining zombies, they thought it was entirely manageable by the local team members. At this moment, everyone agreed with Bai Li Chongqing's suggestion. However, as squad members, they could only look to Bian Junwu for direction, since the decision to return ultimately rested with the leader. Seeing that Bian Junwu was silent, Bai Li Chongqing, the deputy captain, asked, "Leader, do we still need to do any wrap-up work?" Bian Junwu turned around, looking at the team members who were all smiling, and had no choice but to suppress his inner unease. After all, up to this point, nothing seemed amiss, so he decided to return to Blizzard City to report. Upon hearing this, the entire squad cheered. They could finally go back and rest for a while. Bai Li Chongqing sighed, "It's a pity that Zhang Yi and Yuan Konye aren't coming back with us. They are both rare talents." Meng Xiyu couldn't help but chuckle wickedly. "Our deputy captain seems to be really looking forward to them. Aren't you afraid that they'll come back to take your place? It sounds like you're assuming that if they don't come, no one else will take over. But I feel like Tianhai has quite a few good talents. It's just that Zhang Yi and Yuan Kongyi's abilities are what truly interest me." After hearing this, Meng Xiyu nodded. Abilities of the special category can reach Delta level, which is indeed rare. Moreover, with his abilities, he would be a crucial asset to any team. Bian Junwu replied calmly, "Regarding them, we'll discuss it slowly in the future. In principle, if Zhang Yi isn't interested in developing in Blizzard City, the district won't force him. But Yuan Konye is different. If her abilities are officially recognized and she can produce artists in bulk, whether she goes or not won't be up to her." However, just as they were about to leave Tianhai City, Bian Junwu suddenly received a call from Zhang Yi. This scene made him speculate, could it be that Zhang Yi has figured something out? At this moment, everyone thought it was a call from headquarters because Blizzard City was urgently researching Icebreaker and had already called several times. However, when Bian Junwoo mentioned that it was Zhang Yi calling, Woody appeared visibly impatient. Is this guy a jinx? No matter when he calls, he does it right when we're about to leave Tianhai City. Is he trying to pick a fight? Naturally, Bian Junwoo chose not to respond to Woody's annoyance. After the phone rang a few times, he reached out and pressed the answer button. But before Bian Junwoo could say anything, Zhang Yi's voice came through the phone. Squad leader, this is Zhang Yi. May I ask if you have left Tianhai City? Bian Junwoo was confused about Zhang Yi's intentions, so he maintained his cold demeanor and replied, we're less than 10 kilometers away from leaving Tianhai City. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi felt a mix of emotions but didn't show any signs of panic. He calmly said, Squad leader, there's something I need to inform you before you leave. I've discovered that the zombie horde has grown even larger than before. Hearing this news, Bian Junwoo's face showed the first signs of shock, followed by a loud exclamation to halt the vehicle. However, just as the investigation team made an urgent move, Zhang Yi continued speaking to Bian Junwoo. This time, the zombie horde I've discovered is larger than ever, which is why I'm calling you. I hope you understand the gravity of the situation and can report back upon your return. Hearing this, Bian Junwoo remained terrifyingly calm and then asked in a cold voice, where exactly did you make this discovery? Upon hearing Zhang Yi's discovery of the hidden zombie horde, Bian Junwoo's expression became unusually serious. Zhang Yi, how did you find the horde? Do you have any evidence to prove it? Zhang Yi replied frankly, after the zombie battle, I kept questioning whether the zombie crisis in Tianhai City was truly over, so I continued investigating various subway tunnels until I discovered the horde today. At this moment, Zhang Yi speculated in his heart that if Bian Junwoo believed this was true, according to the analysis he and Yang Xinxin had done earlier, Bian Junwoo would definitely stay. With the help of the Zhongnan squad, they might be able to eliminate Yuan Konye. Bian Junwoo then responded, where are you? I'm coming to find you now. Without hesitation, Zhang Yi answered, I'm at home. Zhang Yi knew that opening the dimensional door and teleporting home was a matter of minutes. After hanging up the phone, Bian Junwoo turned to Bai Li Chongqing and said, turn the car around and head to Zhang Yi's shelter. Bai Li Chongqing skillfully made a U-turn and drove towards Zhang Yi's shelter. In the car, Woody was somewhat irritated and asked, Captain, why do you want to find Zhang Yi? Bian Junwoo adjusted his glasses and said, the zombie crisis in Tianhai City is not yet completely resolved. We can't leave like this. Just as he finished speaking, Bian Junwoo began to cough violently, not even having time to take out a handkerchief. He covered his mouth with his hand. At this moment, Woody's face was filled with panic, and he called out to Meng Sayu, quick, check on the captain. Meng Sayu hurriedly took out 2 white pills from his medical kit and handed them to Bian Junwoo. Bian Junwoo reached out, his palm covered in blood. The expressions on everyone's faces in the car became extremely solemn. Bian Junwoo wiped his hand with a handkerchief and said, no need to worry. I don't regret having and using my abilities. After all, without them, I wouldn't have been able to escape death time and time again. Everything granted by the heavens comes with a price. Just stay calm and don't worry too much about me. After taking the medicine from Meng Sayu, Bian Junwoo closed his eyes to rest. The atmosphere in the investigation team's car grew increasingly tense. 2.5 hours later, Bian Junwoo and his team arrived at Zhang Yi's shelter. As soon as they entered, Woody, still in a bad mood, called out, hey, Zhang Yi, if what you found turns out to be a wild goose chase, you're going to find out how many eyes the Horse King has today. Zhang Yi ignored Woody's provocation and simply picked up the remote control, turning on the television. Let me show you a video first, he said. In the video, from the perspective of the mechanical rat, they could see a tunnel packed with zombies, likely numbering in the tens of thousands. But as the mechanical rat continued deeper, the endless horde of zombies became so dense that it was impossible to see the end. Bian Junwoo and the others were visibly shocked, their backs covered in cold sweat. They were not intimidated by the sheer number of zombies but were terrified of who was behind the scenes controlling and hiding such a large force.